What role does knowledge management play in helping global AEC firms collaborate efficiently, share insights, and make better informed decisions? And then actually taking it even simpler, like how do you define knowledge management?
Knowledge management to me is the capture and dissemination of all of our standards, best practices, kind of exceptions, all those little bits of how to and wisdom that people have accumulated over the course of their career, and making sure that we democratize that as much as possible throughout the firm and or highlight those folks as resources.
Did you know the biggest barrier to collaboration on AEC projects often is not the technology, it's how knowledge is shared across teams? In this episode of the AEC AI and Tech Strategy podcast, we're joined by Nora Swanson, PE and Director, Innovation and Knowledge Management at JB&B, to discuss how smarter knowledge management can transform the way global project teams work together. We'll speak about how she defines innovation and the tools creating the greatest impact, the strategy she uses to lead successful change management across diverse teams, and how to determine which new technologies are worth the investment. Whether you're leading projects, driving digital transformation, or looking to strengthen team collaboration, this conversation will give you actionable insights to keep your projects ahead of the curve. Before we jump in, I wanted to tell you about our AEC PM Connect event. Built for project managers who want to improve project delivery, communication, and leadership through practical sessions and tools. These events provide an avenue to connect with leading PMs in the industry. Visit aecpmconnect.com and register today, and I hope to see you there. With that, let's jump into today's episode. It's now time for our conversation of the week with Nora Swanson, PE. Nora, thank you so much for taking the time to join the show. Welcome.
Oh, thanks, Nick. Happy to be here. Thank you for asking me.
Absolutely. And I know we've discussed a little bit about kind of, your role in the industry and how very interesting it is. So we're going to jump right in. So Nora, can you share a little bit more about yourself and the journey that led you to your current role, which is Director of Innovation and Knowledge Management at JB&B? And if you want to tell the audience what the full acronym for JB&B is.
Yeah, so we'll start there. JB&B is Jaro Spahman Bowles. We are an MEP engineering firm, plus a whole lot more. We have deep carbon reduction, commissioning, environmental, and so kind of run the gamut of services. We are headquartered in New York, but have offices in Boston and Philly and quite a large remote presence, but we do work globally. So about 400-person firm. Very excited to have joined just about 2 years ago, actually. My 2-year anniversary is coming up in a couple weeks. But that kind of is a pin in my career journey. 2 years ago, I made the decision to join this firm as its Director of Innovation and Knowledge Management. I had spent much of my career prior to joining JBB in a role that wore many hats. I'm a mechanical engineer by background and started my career off that way. I actually spent close to 20 years at another engineering firm, going from engineer to project manager to ultimately to Director of Design Technologies, where we were really responsible for a lot of the design processes and technologies that we used throughout our project work, Revit, stuff in AutoCAD being the primary, but we also did 3D scanning and a whole host of other automations. So really my background has kind of weaved its way through the industry, but it's ultimately been a result of just being a curious person. And when you seeing new ideas or new technologies pop up in the industry and kind of having those pique my interest, and then wanting to learn and understand and ultimately, hopefully, implement those items, ideas, technologies, whatever it may be, into wherever I'm at. So I would say the running theme of my career to get me to the point where I am now is really just stay curious. I think my favorite part of my job is speaking with people and they say something or something just kind of surfaces in conversation. And at least I kind of always do like a head tilt, like that is really interesting. I'd like to explore that more. So that's kind of my favorite feeling, I would say, that I get to experience as part of this line of work.
And the curiosity is what kicks it off, right? And then the creativity piece to actually, start to implement whatever solution you come up with, right? It's probably my favorite part of along the same lines as well.
Yeah.
So going back to knowledge management, Nora, so like what role does knowledge management play in helping global AEC firms collaborate efficiently, share insights, and make better informed decisions? And then actually taking it even simpler, like how do you define knowledge management?
Sure. I mean, I think knowledge management is a keystone to anything we do within the industry and anything that any company does. Without being able to manage our knowledge effectively, how are we able to cohesively as a firm produce a quality product and service our clients? Knowledge management to me is the capture and dissemination of all of our standards, best practices, kind of exceptions, all those little bits of how to and wisdom that people have accumulated over the course of their career and through their expertise and through their experience, and making sure that we democratize that as much as possible throughout the firm and or highlight those folks as resources for others to use around the company. So I think being able to understand where your knowledge lives, whether that be via a human, whether that be on a network drive, whether that be on your company internet, that management and that understanding of your scope of knowledge and where people can find it and access it easily is really critical for success.
And to the audience, if you're listening and thinking, man, I have trouble finding like the simplest thing on SharePoint this morning. Well, you must have been looking over my shoulder, and we can all relate. But yes, it's absolutely critical, and like it's one thing to say it. It's one thing where you're just like, I need to find this thing, and I need it now.
Yeah,
you can't find it,
mm-hmm.
And like that's knowledge management, which great explanation.
Yeah, it's really, I would say quality project management or quality knowledge management and high level knowledge management is really removing those bits of frustration that we all feel when you're trying to find what exists somewhere, but just isn't easily accessible for you.
In the AEC industry, skilled project managers are the backbone of success. EMI's AEC PM certification offers tailored training, ongoing support, and exclusive access to premium content that keeps your team sharp and effective. From foundational training to advanced leadership tools, set your team apart with certified growth. Learn more at aecpm.com. That's aecpm.com.
And then, Nora, let's say the other half of your title, right? Innovation.
Yeah.
So how do you define innovation as it relates to the AEC industry? And then what emerging technologies are you excited about and then that you see as the most transformational?
Yeah. So in our innovation team, we have 3 core responsibilities. We have operational excellence, so really kind of those workplace efficiencies and automations that improve people's day-to-day. We have tech transformation, so seeing what disruptive technologies are coming down the pike, and really AI being the most prevalent of the day. And then the third is that knowledge management bucket that we already talked about. Innovation, to me, a definition is something that is so amorphous. I've heard some people say that it is creating abundance where there once was none. I think that's one of the more standards, but to me it is improving upon existing practices such that it creates value for the people either interacting with it or receiving the product of it.
And any examples that come to mind for you that you can be like, yeah, this is one piece of innovation or technology or whatever form it took that you implemented and are really proud of?
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch. So I think for the MEP side, I know it's relevant in other parts of our industry as it is, but implementing reality capture for MEP services has been really critical and crucial. I had actually started this in my former life, but being able to accurately capture what exists on a site, not only for completeness of scope, but also to allow people to virtually visit a site, to allow team members who might not have easy access to a site see exactly what's happening. I think we've all been part of site surveys where, people are taking pictures and you're kind of like clicking around the room, and ultimately like you're missing the one corner that you actually needed to see. I think, an innovative technology like that and really kind of raised the bar for what we're able to do as a firm.
I think about how much simpler that can make the life of your fellow consultants if your fellow consultants are also innovative, right? Because as a structural engineer, if we're working together on a renovation project and we got to punch some holes through floors, right? I want to get you that exactly where you need it, and not through something existing. Which and I'm sure you can elaborate on that and how the intersection between different consultants different goes.
What's interesting that as I was saying that, I also struggle with calling that actually an innovative technology, because to me it's such a no-brainer that it's not like the level that I would call that to be an innovative or a new innovation is kind of so marginal. But I know that the industry still struggles to adopt technologies like this. And so in a sense, it is innovative as a whole to the industry. But to me, I almost would expect, or I do expect, the innovations that we come up with and that we implement to raise the bar even higher. That to me is kind of a more practical, kind of like a little I innovation versus something that's, a bigger I innovation that is rethinking how we produce work with the help of an AI technology. That to me is something that is globally game-changing how we operate as a firm versus something that's a more incremental improvement to how we currently work.
Right, like perhaps using that reality capture data, so that laser scan on site, to then feed into some sort of system that can do what we humans spend a lot of time doing manually, as an example, perhaps.
Yeah, 100%. Whether that be actually documenting the conditions in whatever software tool we need to use to produce our work, whether that mean setting up regular scans to track and monitor the progress of a site over time as we move through to construction, feeding that into a tool, really an AI, to understand how fast a project comes together, better understanding of schedules, better understanding of material sourcing. I feel like there are ways to build up to something that's a bigger innovation from some of these smaller steps that we're all taking.
And I would say, I would agree, and I would also say that the types of people in these roles, which we've come to know a lot of great people who kind of share similar paths and trajectories in their careers. It's like you're thinking 3, 5, 10 years out, and it just takes time for like your vision to come to fruition. It kind of just is what it is.
And I think everyone in this role too has come to understand that the scope or the reality of the world that we live in today is that change in what's possible is it's happening so fast. The rate of change has almost become exponential in a way. And so even if we vision out 5, 10, 15 years, I fully expect what I'm thinking is possible today to completely go out the side door, next year, because some new breakthrough or some new realization has, come into the collective that just changes how I approach and think about innovative work that we do.
Or let's talk about one thing that does not change. That is the human resistance to change.
Yeah.
So what strategies have you found to be most effective in driving change management and then securing buy-ins from teams across different locations and disciplines? Just because, like, so long as humans are part of the process, right, which we will be for the foreseeable future, particularly in engineering, there's always going to be change and then the management that goes along with it.
Yeah. Communication is ultimately what it boils down to, and over communication. Being someone who is responsible for change management in our firm and responsible for large changes that we've gone through, the amount of communication required is almost exhausting, right? The amount that you need to do. And it does take that understanding going into a change that you are going to need to be communicating heavily about the change, about what is bringing upon the change, what change is actually happening, how the change is going to occur, who is involved, how it impacts you. That really needs to span out over multiple months, multiple years, and really almost on in perpetuity with continuous communication and updating. That really leading change from the point of over communication has proven to be most successful for us. Built in there in the sauce is really just leading with empathy, to understanding that not everyone is going to be so like hooray about change, that we do have champions, we do have resistors, and kind of everywhere in between. So, going into a change, being fully aware that we are going to run up against everyone along that spectrum and building our plan accordingly. We're also undertaking as a firm, really building the skill to receive and understand change. We recently started our change college under our JB&B University umbrella. So we issued out 2 courses, Coping with Workplace Change and Developing a Growth Mindset, with the intent to build out that course curriculum even further. So we really are approaching it from a human level to say, hey, JB&B, we understand that we are asking you to change a lot. We understand that you might not always like it. We understand that maybe you're very excited about it. But we do recognize that, and we want to help everyone along the way. So we're going to try to upskill everyone in what change management really means and how you can personally adapt and respond to changes that are coming our way.
And for what we consider these types of positions, right? Director of innovation engineer, people think like technology, right? This cool, dazzling, shiny, great. But
my role is people.
But yes,
really, ultimately,
it's what it always comes back to. But on the note of, and so the technology and then the process, right, which is what the people do in combination with technology to get the job done. How do you decide like what to prioritize, and then how do you measure success, ROI, or any other metrics to say like, yes, that's what we're going to do?
So typically we bring together people we determine to be stakeholders within the firm for the particular effort or idea that we'll be pursuing. Sometimes it is just our own internal team, which we do have a dedicated innovation team of 6, which is, I think, important to mention as well. But so it could either be within our own team, or we bring in some of our partnership or some of our directors or department leads, or some of our, engineering staff. It really all depends upon what we're looking to do. And we go through it. It almost ends up becoming like an A3 format, if you're familiar with that, where you define the problem, determine the solution, figure out what the next steps are. I'm probably not describing given the A3 definition in fully, but look it up if you're interested. But it really helps define kind of the root cause of why we are looking to make a change. Sometimes that root cause is, we feel as though we don't want to be left behind. This is happening within the industry, and we need to make sure that we're aware and possibly ahead of things we see coming down the road. Sometimes it is we have a workflow or a process within the firm that doesn't seem to be working as effectively as it once did. And so let's, see that through to what change is going to happen. So that's kind of the process. We don't have anything that is really rigid because change is really a little bit of an amorphous concept in my mind. And to make change procedural, I don't think serves, the ultimate success of the change. But so we try to at least understand what's happening and what our goals are, go through a market analysis of what's available to help us solve the problem that's out on the market, or if it's something we want to build, or if it's just a new kind of way of thinking that we need to adopt. And through our team, through the champions and stakeholders that we bring together, we then either say, nope, not something we want to move forward with, or yes, let's move into more of a beta testing. And if that is successful, let's move into a full rollout. Regarding priorities, our priorities, I would say like our micro priorities are constantly shifting and adapting to, what's happening during a given quarter or month or year. But our North Star really are those three responsibilities that I defined earlier, that operational excellence, tech transformation, and knowledge management. So as long as we are working within those North Star buckets, we are able to we're able to kind of make the micro adjustments needed to serve the change idea as best appropriate.
And I like that because change is inevitable in business.
Yeah.
Hour to hour, day to day. But your business objectives, your North Star, just stays relatively constant, which is good because then you're not running around trying to figure out what you're going to do next from a strategic level. You already know that, just how you actually do it changes.
Yeah, it's just kind of like working down your pyramid of mission and strategy, right? Like everything in the bigger buckets towards the bottom of the pyramid can have some, flexibility and means to adapt, but the top of the pyramid is kind of the stalwart goals and vision.
We call it where I work, we call it the three-legged stool. So,
oh, yeah.
Operational excellence.
Yeah.
Same. Then there's the R&D innovation arm.
Okay.
And technical support, which is kind of you roll something out of R&D, and there's always somebody there to help you until it just becomes so ingrained in your operations that everybody knows what to do. Yeah,
that's second nature.
Mm-hmm. And that's just actually a good segue into the next question I have for you, Nora. So can you share an example where innovation significantly improved the project's outcome? But that could be in, people, process, or technology, right? Like you gave laser scanning or rally capture as an example earlier, but any more you'd like to share?
Sure. So recently we rolled out an AI chatbot for our knowledge base, and that has already actually shown significant gains for people in terms of ability to find the information that they're looking for quicker. Even searching on our internet, which has a very robust search, produces a lot of results that you then, as the person, need to kind of synthesize and figure out what pieces you might need in order to fully answer your question. Having the AI engine behind that search to have it be able to kind of collate and process multiple pieces of information into a single answer has really helped people get to their end goal or get to their end answer a lot sooner. So I think that's where we've had some immediate quick success on the AI side. On the process side, I'm going to take this back to a couple years ago, maybe 5 or so years ago, when we were taking a look at drawing production and how, it's a struggle that we all have, and I think it's kind of ubiquitous throughout the industry, is that when you're producing work and you go through the traditional kind of SDDD/CD packaging, you end up finding that you need to do a lot of rework because of changes that were made, kind of decisions that were made early on that might have morphed over time, whatever it may be. There's a whole host of reasons that we can all talk about. But we really took a look and worked with GCs and CMs on what they actually need in our packages in order for them to do their work more effectively. And we also talked to the owners to ask what they need on our drawings to help them not only comprehend what we're providing them, but make the appropriate decisions. And so really what came out of it is the amount of detailed work that we're being shown on particularly a DD set, sometimes an SD set, really was, I don't want to say unnecessary because, work is always necessary, but it could have been shown in a more effective manner. So what we kind of did was take away a lot of the terminal level distribution work. We went to showing color block diagrams for different zones, whether that be HVAC zones, sprinkler zones, lighting control zones, zones that are going to a particular power panel. And by having these color block diagrams, the CMs were able to say, okay, this type of zone is this dollar per square foot. And the owner was able to take those diagrams to their stakeholders, and they could talk about the zoning more effectively and where, say, thermostats were located or light switches were located in just a way that people who are not engineers can actually pick up on and understand on a drawing. Now, it is probably a rare person who is not an engineer that can look at an engineering drawing and make sense of it. So how do we humanize our engineering drawings for really the majority of people that we work with? So we really focused on that. Big success. It actually saved us a lot of time and money on our side because we weren't over documenting to then potentially rework as decisions were solidified down the road. Now, it did shift more of our work into the CD phase, but when you really looked at the numbers and broke it down, we were already spending all that time in CD responding to changes and updating work that we've already done. So overall, it ended up not really being more work, but it felt more productive because we were actually responding to what the design needed to be versus just reworking what we thought the design was going to be before.
And in that case, even if you didn't do any more or less work, if your clients are happier, and your construction partners are able to work more effectively, I mean, that's a win.
100%. There are multiple levels of success in that effort. So highly recommend opening those lines of communication with the partners that you work with often, because really everyone's in the same boat of feeling as though their processes are probably not as efficient as they could be. And the more that we can work together to understand the needs outside of our own little bubble, the better the products are for everyone.
Absolutely. And we like to call it, it's like recognizable reality is what we call it, because
love that.
Yeah, you just, like, drawings aren't met for clients for the most part.
Yeah.
Right. And there's a couple ways we knew it. I think 360 photography is the simplest one. We try to make whatever we present as close as possible to just walking the thing in person, which is easier said than done. But
I would agree with that, because I think there's also a level of, because we as engineers can get so in the weeds of things, it's hard to figure out how many rungs you need to go up in your mind as to what humanizes a presentation, like a drawing presentation, versus what we've just all been used to for our entire careers.
And the benefit in our case is like everything we do is existing structures, right? So at minimum, you just go outside and walk, and that's not always quite as simple when you have to. Right? It's pretty amazing, right? We conceptualize a whole building before it's built and try to communicate that. It is. I mean, when you step back and look at the entire process of like what AEC does, it is pretty amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's an unsung industry for the amount of work and impact it has on the world.
And I think that is going to continue to change, particularly with some of this disruptive technology that we're talking about. I think positively for the AEC industry, but there's only one way to find out.
Yeah.
So
wait and see. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. That's right. So Nora, thank you so much again for taking the time to join us. Any final pieces of advice you'd like to share with leaders and professionals in the industry who want to embrace innovation, but have their day-to-day to worry about?
Yeah, I would say just find those curious people. If you're able to have a dedicated team focusing on this work, it has proven to be very effective. I understand you need to make the business case to do so, but I think as we look forward, maybe not 5 years down the road, because who knows what 5 years is going to be, but at least a year or two down the road, dedicating resources to understanding and reacting to and being proactive about what we're all going to face is only going to better serve you as a firm.
Really well said. And Nora, if the audience wants to connect with you, ask you any questions about what we talked about today, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Really, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. That's perfectly fine. You can also reach me via email. Is it best to just kind of like shout out my email here?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah, it's Swanson N at jbb.com. That's SWANSON N at jbb.com.
Excellent, Nora. So thank you again so much for taking the time. We'll definitely include your email and contact information in the show notes. And if you are in the audience and want to reach out, feel free. But Nora, thank you again so much for taking the time.
Thank you, Nick. Great conversation.
Absolutely. Until next time, please remember, you can find the show notes for this episode at aectechpodcast.com. There, you'll find a summary of the key points discussed in today's episode, as well as links to any of the resources, websites, or books mentioned during this episode. Until next time, I wish you the best in all your engineering and technology endeavors.